Christmas years ago, and it ruined Secret Santa for me forever. I was 24 at the time, working at a mid-sized office in the city. Nothing special at all. Cubicles, those fluorescent lights, and break room coffee that always tasted mid. The only thing people actually seemed excited about was the annual Secret Santa. I'd only been there about a year, so I signed up mostly because I didn't want to be the weird one who didn't participate. We all pulled names out of a bowl. I got some guy from accounting I barely knew. I figured I'd grab him a mug and some candy and call it a day. A few days later, the gifts started showing up. My first Secret Santa gift was normal. I came in one morning and found a little red bag on my desk. Inside was a Starbucks gift card and some chocolates. The tag said, "For the one who always looks tired. Merry Christmas." Kind of rude, kind of funny. Everybody joked about their gifts. People were posting pictures of them in our group chat. It felt harmless. Around that same week, we got a new hire. He introduced himself as Evan. Tall, mid-30s, and kind of plain. He wore a blue button-up, black slacks, and one of those generic office ID badges on a lanyard. My manager walked him over to the row of cubicles near mine, and the guy said he'd be helping out on the client side for the end-of-the-year rush. He seemed friendly enough. Asked the usual questions. How long had I been there? Did I like it? Where was the bathroom, and where was the good coffee? But there was something about him I didn't like. He watched people more than he talked to them. He always seemed to be listening, just from out of view. I told myself I was being paranoid, though. A few days later, I stayed late to finish some reports. It was dark when I finally shut down my computer, and most of the office was empty. I rode the elevator down to the parking garage. My car was parked in one of the corners. As I walked toward it, I noticed something on the windshield. A small, neatly wrapped present. My stomach dropped a little. I looked around first. Just rows of parked cars and the exit ramp. I picked up the box. The tag had my name on it in neat handwriting. Inside was a pair of fuzzy gloves and a note. "You shouldn't walk to your car alone so late. Someone has to look out for you. Signed, your Secret Santa." My chest tightened. Secret Santa was supposed to happen during office hours, on desks, in the break room, not in a mostly empty garage where I walked alone. The next day, I mentioned it to a couple of coworkers. They laughed it off. One said, "Wow, your Secret Santa's got game," and another said, "At least yours pays attention." I laughed along, but it didn't feel funny. The second time it happened, it wasn't cute at all. A week before Christmas, I stayed late again. I told myself I wouldn't, but end-of-year deadlines didn't care how creeped out I was. The garage was even emptier this time. Only a few scattered cars, and the lights seemed dimmer than usual. When I got to my car, there was nothing on the windshield. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Unlocked the door and got in. When I sat down, I saw it. A small red box sitting on the passenger seat. I always lock my car. Always. I looked around quickly, heart racing, then locked the doors again from the inside, even though that wasn't going to fix anything. My hands were shaking as I opened the box. There was no gift inside this time. Just a note folded in half. "You really need to be more careful. It was too easy to get in here." I drove home with my heart thumping, checking the rearview mirror every few seconds. The next morning, I went straight to HR. I told them about the weird gifts I've been getting, and the note. I didn't say stalker, but I didn't have to. The HR lady's face tightened as she listened. She said she'd talk to security and review the cameras. On my way out of her office, I passed Evan in the hallway. He smiled at me. "Rough morning?" he asked casually. "Yeah," I muttered. "You got home safe last night, right?" he asked. I stopped. "What?" He shrugged. "You mentioned you were staying late. Roads were icy. Just asking." I hadn't told him anything about staying late. Something about that clicked in my brain. I walked straight into my manager's office instead of my desk. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "That new guy, Evan, how long is he contracting for?" My manager gave me a blank look. "Who?" "The guy you introduced to our row last week. Tall, dark hair, badge, sits by the front window." She frowned, thinking, "We don't have any new hires on your side. Not this month." I laughed nervously. "No, I mean the guy you showed around. He said that he was here to help with client stuff." "I've been out of the office for 3 days for meetings," she said. "I haven't shown anybody around." That's when my stomach really dropped. I went back to HR. They checked the visitor log. Nobody named Evan. The badge he wore should have had a number. There's no record of it. Security said they'd pull footage from the garage and entrances. For the rest of the day, I kept catching glimpses of him. In the hallway, in the break room, near the elevators. Always just passing by. Always watching. By the time I left, I was shaking. I got off the elevator in the garage and stood there for a second, listening. My car sat where it always did, slightly crooked between the lines. This time, there was a bigger box on the hood. I didn't touch it with my bare hands. I unlocked my car from a distance, grabbed the box with my shirt, tossed it into the passenger side, got in, and sped out of there. I didn't open it until it was in my apartment with the door locked, the chain on, and every light on. Inside was a USB drive and a small folded note. My hand shook as I opened the note. Open this. Merry Christmas. I plugged the USB into my laptop. There were multiple video files. I clicked the first one. It was grainy security-style footage of me walking through the garage. Different nights, different outfits. Sometimes I was on my phone, sometimes digging through my bag, and sometimes looking around nervously. The camera wasn't from an overhead security cam. It was at a ground level, hidden behind concrete, peeking around pillars, and always a little too close. In one video, I walked right past the camera. For a split second, my face filled the frame. I flinched while watching it. The last video literally made my skin crawl. It was filmed from behind a car across from mine, angled so you could see both my car and the entrance to the garage elevator. The timestamp in the corner was from tonight, like 10 minutes earlier. The video showed my car sitting alone. Then in the distance, the elevator doors opened and I stepped out. I could see myself looking around, pulling my coat tighter and hesitating. The camera stayed low, unmoving, like whoever was recording was crouched behind something, waiting. At the end of the clip, you could hear breathing close to the mic, then a whisper. You never say goodnight when you leave. I ripped the USB out so fast my laptop chimed in error. My heart was hammering. For a second, I just stood there in my living room, shaking, feeling like I was being watched, even though my blinds were closed. I was reaching for my phone to call 911 when somebody knocked on my front door. Not like a normal knock. It was super hard, uneven pounding. 3 hits. Pause. 2 hits. Another hit. Like whoever it was couldn't stand still. Time stood still. The knocking came again. Hello, a man's voice called. Hey, it's me, from work. I need help. I didn't move, didn't answer. He kept talking through the door. I got jumped, he said, sounding breathless. They stole my car. My phone's gone. I didn't know where else to go. Please, I know you live near the office. I followed you once we left. Please, just let me use your phone. My stomach twisted. I looked through the people. It was him. Evan stood on my porch, shoulders hunched, one hand on the doorframe. There was blood on his forehead and running down his cheek, or at least it looked like blood. His shirt was ripped. He kept glancing over his shoulder like something might be chasing you. Come on, he said, voice cracking. Please, I'm freezing out here. Every instinct in me screamed to keep the door locked. I backed away from it. I'm calling the police, I said, trying to sound steady. They can help you. His tone changed in an instant. You don't need to do that, he said. The desperation dropped out of his voice. Just let me in. I know you're alone. I've watched you come home. My skin went cold. He hit the door with the side of his fist. Open the door. I ran to grab my phone, but I'd barely turned my back when it happened. He started kicking as hard as he could and ran into it with his shoulder. The door finally burst inward. I stumbled and dropped my phone as he shoved his way inside, slamming the door behind him with his heel. He was breathing hard, eyes wide, but there was no fear in them. Just this bright, excited look. See, he said. Now we don't have to shout through the door. I tried to run for the kitchen, but he was faster. He grabbed the back of my shirt and yanked me toward the living room. I scratched at his hands, kicked backward, anything. He dragged me a few feet before I twisted free and spun toward him. That's when he grabbed a picture frame off the TV stand. It was a family photo from a few years ago in a solid wood frame. He swung it like a club, catching me on the side of the head. White flashed in my vision. I hit the floor, ears ringing, and everything spinning. The frame shattered beside my face, glass scattering under my cheek. I felt his weight drop on me a second later, fingers clawing at my arms, trying to pin them above my head. You weren't supposed to run, he hissed. I was trying to be nice. I thrashed under him, half dizzy, grabbing at anything I could reach. My hand landed on a shard of broken glass, and I squeezed it without thinking, slicing through my palm. He grabbed my wrist, squeezing until I dropped it. I did the only thing I could think of. I pulled my knees up as hard as I could and kicked straight between his legs. Perfect nutshot. He made a sound that I'll never forget. His grip loosened instantly. He toppled sideways, clutching himself. I scrambled out from under him, slipped on the glass, and sprinted for the door. My vision was still tilted, my head throbbing, but adrenaline dragged me forward. I didn't stop to grab my phone. I didn't put on shoes. I yanked the broken door open and ran out into the cold. The air outside hit me like ice. I bolted across my small front yard and straight to my neighbor's house, pounding on their door like my life depended on it. They opened it after what felt like an eternity, but was probably 10 seconds. I practically fell inside. My neighbor's eyes went huge when she saw the blood on my face and hands. "Call 911, I gasped. "Please," he broke in. "He's in my house." Her husband locked the door and peered through the window while she dialed. He watched my house from across the street. By the time the police got there, he was gone. They cleared my place room by room. The front door was busted. The picture frame was smashed and there was a bunch of blood on the floor. The USB was still on the coffee table and my laptop was open. He left the same way he came in and vanished into the night, but they never found him. The company tightened security after that. New badges, new cameras, and no more Secret Santa for a while. HR said they think he'd been getting in by following employees to the lobby and using a cloned access card. I took a couple of weeks off, then eventually quit. I couldn't walk through that parking garage again without feeling like somebody was waiting behind every pillar. This year, people keep asking me if I miss doing Secret Santa at work. I just smile and say I'm over that kind of thing. What I don't say is that every time I see a little wrapped box or walk through a garage alone, or hear a knock at my door after dark, I remember his voice on that video whispering that I never say goodnight, and I remember how close I came to never seeing another Christmas at all.